Hey guys, and welcome back to Brexit England, Northern Ireland, and Eastern Europe. And in Brexit England, where the inhabitants are so stupid, the only country to impose economic sanctions upon itself, cutting off both feet from the knee and both hands from the elbow, all because they don't like foreigners. And then they wonder why all the councils are in a complete mess. That happens when you vote for complete incompetent twats to run your local council. We have in this country so many councils that are going bankrupt. You know, I think Birmingham's gone bankrupt. There's a good few more that have just gone bankrupt, and you have to wonder how that's happened, and especially when the Tories have put something like 1.2, 1.3 trillion pounds on the national debt that when they came in was something like, 800 billion. And the difference between a trillion and a billion is really vast. I'll give you the difference between a million and a billion, which a million seconds is something like 11 days. A billion seconds is something like 38 years. Okay, so you see there's a vast difference between the numbers. And then when you move over to the trillions, I mean, if you had a trillion tenors, and that would probably stack up to the moon, and then you could probably make a stairway all the way to walk all the way back down if you stacked up with 10 or with 20s, probably even 50s. Right, it would stack right up to the moon and then come all the way back down. And you might even be able to, on a trillion, you might even be able to go back up there again, to be honest, because it is that much money. You couldn't imagine the amount of money a trillion is. So you have to wonder where all the money's gone, especially as the councils, especially as, the councils have cut all of the services anyway. The government since 2010, they've cut all the services in this country. So how comes they've cut all the services, but they've increased the debt, right? A debt that, it took us, over 1,000 years, right, to get to £1 trillion in debt, because we wasn't even at 800 billion. And they said, and the Tories said, we're going to cut the deficit, we're going to cut it down, but they've increased it, right? But but the amount of money they've increased it by is just phenomenal. And you have to wonder, where has that money gone? The council services have been cut all over the place. Look at Southend Council, for example. Southend Council have got to get rid of 80 members of staff. 80 members of staff. Right. So that's more services that's got to be cut. Because wherever those staff members are cut from, that's a service that's going to be cut. That's how it works. Simple as that. So whether it could be some of the people who are cleaning out the sea, or it might be some people from the council offices that that have to coordinate all that type of stuff. But whatever the case, right? There's 80 members of staff that they can no longer afford to pay, so they're going to have to get rid of them because their debt is 35 million. And for a council, 35 million in debt. That's not really a big debt, and that's the reason why Southend Council is not actually going bankrupt, right? Because they've managed to get somehow to 35 million, and that type of money they could probably find somewhere in in a cupboard or in the back drawer or something like that. Because a lot of these councils, they're paying their councillors more than the Prime Minister gets paid, right? And you say, well, but these are the type of people who will say to you, well, I could be working for like one, in the private sector, I could be putting in a lot more money, and say, no, you couldn't, right? You're just lucky to have that job with the council, right? Well, a lot of them have voted actually. We're just lucky to have that, so they can get that much money, because they probably would never be able to make that much money in the private sector anyway. But that's the reason why, because you've got pure incompetence working in all these councils over the place. And then you've got to, the fact is the councils have sold off all their local services. The services what they should be making money from. They should really be making money from, like, they should be the people who are supplying the electric and the gas and the water to their local people. That should be like a council-run service. So the council's collected all that money, and all that money should be going back into our economy. But no, for some reason, the people in this country, and I can't understand why the people in this country always vote to punch themselves in the guts as hard as they can. Right, and as they would just it's like the people in this country just go out and look for the biggest person on the road and just say, what, could you punch me in the guts? Right, because that is how the people in this country vote. Because, you know, we've got to, you know, if you look at the wastage, within all the councils, right? You know, the facts that they've sold off, you know, all the services, what, you know, the council houses that they could have been getting money back on. They could have been getting, you know, rents back on the council houses, because, you know, if someone's got a council house, it gives them much more of an incentive to go out and work as well. Because, you know, if you've got people that are on the social and they're in the private sector, then they're sort of stuck, because if they work, right, then the council, you know, they won't get their rent. You know, the council won't help them with their housing benefit, because, you know, the council start messing about their housing benefit money because they're working. So every couple of weeks they'll stop their housing benefit. That's going to piss off the private landlord. So this person's stuck where all they can do is really sign on and collect the housing benefit rather than going out to work, because they're not going to earn enough money, right, to be able to afford. Right, especially when like living in London and that, you know, the councils don't even wouldn't. I don't even think they'll pay you enough money to be able to rent a property in London anyway. So you know, somehow you'd have to top that up. But trying to top that up, yeah, they've made that as difficult as possible, which means that every so often, right, they're going to stop paying your rent. So it might be for 2 weeks, it might be for 4 weeks, it might be for 6 months. But that's what they do. And next thing, the person's getting in trouble with their landlord, because they can't make up the, you know, the 12 or the £1,400 that they have to pay for a 2-bed flat in London. So they can't make it up. They're not getting paid enough wages, right? Because this whole system is just been set up completely corrupt anyway. Right, but that's what the problem with the local councils is. They've sold off all their services. They've been paying their councillors, like, you know, extravagant money, and then you can imagine the expenses as well, because, you know, these guys will have their, you know, they'll have like council credit cards, you know, and all those other things. So you can imagine that the councils will take themselves off to, you know, they'll take themselves off to all sorts of different trips and all that type of thing, you know, for, you know, maybe for team building and stuff like that. So they might have to go skiing for team building. And welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. Thank you so much for all your messages. A special thanks to everybody who signed up to my channel. I feel so blessed with so much people that signed up, so thank you so much for that. I'll go through all your messages, I'll answer as many as I can, but I will like all your messages for definite. And we have to say that this show is now sponsored by George Soros. And if anyone does know George Soros, can you please tell him that this show is sponsored by him, so that then he can send me the cash? We're going to start in America with Donald Trump, because one of Donald Trump's lawyers have said that, Donald Trump's lawyers saying a lot of stupid things. Alina Hubbard the other day, I heard Alina Hubbard saying, Jack Smith, the prosecutor, right? He said, this man is always on the table. He's doing this so he can get himself in the media, get himself in front of the cameras, get himself on the telly all the time. She's saying that on the telly, right? Now, considering that Alina Hubbard, very pretty girl, right? Very, very pretty girl, but like just so thick, right? But considering that she's saying that on the media, right, about Jack Smith, right, who has only done 2 press conferences. He's done 2 press conferences. Well, Amelia Hubbard, right, cannot get herself off of the telly. She's on there every minute. Right, you know, all the time, every minute. And you know what amazes me about these people is they don't realize that MAGA stands for Make Attorneys Get Attorneys. That's what MAGA really stands for, because every single one of Donald Trump's lawyers has needed a lawyer. Right? Now, she's going to be no different, because she's just saying so much stupid stuff, right? And, you know, the body that overlooks all the lawyers in America, you know, these are the people who will just sanction her because of all the stupidness that she's saying, especially on the TV, right? And then, you know, another one of Donald Trump's lawyers said the other day that even if he's convicted of insurrection, that should not stop him from becoming president, or from being on the ballot or becoming president. I think, seriously, these people, they're really, you know, there's something wrong with them. Even if he's convicted, that should not stop. Really, you know. And then we have to move over to Jeffrey Epstein papers, because the Jeffrey Epstein papers have come out, and my God, you know, some of the people that's on there, do you know what I mean? You know, Obviously, Donald Trump appears on there a lot because, obviously, Donald Trump. There's loads of pictures documented with Donald Trump and Epstein, but you know, I've seen pictures with Epstein with everybody. When I say everybody, I just mean like whatever proper famous name that you can say. There's pictures with Epstein and them. I mean, he had. When I say, I mean, I've seen pictures with him, Obama, Clinton, Professor Stephen Hawking. Stevie, what are you doing, Stevie? Stephen Hawking, right? Took himself to, but I don't think he actually went to Epstein's island. But Epstein is a man who was offering people orgies. So I mean, it's obvious. It's obvious what's going to go on there because with those people, the richer they are, right, is the more dirty and more things that they get up to because these people, believe me, they just get up to some nastiness, right? When I say some real nastiness and real, look at was it Madison Cawthorn, right? Said that the Republican senators and the congressmen, right? He said, yeah, they used to invite me to have cocaine orgies. And it's the same thing will be going on over here with our politicians. Because remember how Michael Gove, the crackhead, because anytime I'm talking about Michael Gove, you always have to say Gove, the crackhead, because he used to have cocaine parties, right? And he just tell you straight, yeah, he used to have cocaine parties. But it's that time he was trying to get in he was trying to get in with the cool people of the country. Right, so so that's something that you would expect. Do you know what I mean? Because this is what these people do. It's more do as I say, don't even think about doing what I do, because you're just little people. Derek Draper has passed away. Derek Draper is the husband of Kate Garraway, who is on GMB every morning. So this is a woman who comes into our living rooms every morning. So a lot of people knew her story and a lot of people knew about her. I'm not sure, I don't know how much people knew about her husband, but Derek Draper was from like the New Labour, right? So he was one of them who got caught up in the whole, I think, cash for questions. I believe that's what he got caught up in, because he was very forthright, and very bolshy kind of chap. But he, 56 years old. He got the he got COVID. I think it was probably 150, 152 when he actually got COVID, because he got it at the beginning, so he must have got it around March 2020, at the height of everything. Do you know what I mean? So we got like literally 4 years later, and he's dead, right? Because he had multi organ failure, and he was on a ventilator. So that means he was in a coma, because he was on a ventilator for ages as well. And then he come home. He went back home. But I've got a one of the guys that used to just around the corner from me, and he's pretty famous. But they're twins, Bobby and Steve, but I can't remember which one of them. And I saw one of them at a funeral a couple of years ago, and I was speaking to him, and I still can't tell you which, because they're identical twins, right? And I still can't tell you which one of them is the one that has got COVID. But they used to be on Kiss. They used to run something called Zoo Beat on Kiss London. And so he's apparently got it, and he had a fundraiser just like 2 weeks ago in like the Jazz Cafe, right? And his is supposed to be just as bad as Derek's as well. And I'm sure, I think they're around. Actually, I think that because they're about 60, I think. Yeah, they're about 60. They're about 60, maybe. They're about 59, maybe 60, right? Those two, because they lived like, they was born like 2 or 3 roads away from me, where I was brought up. But he's got it as well, and he's got it. I think he's got it as bad as Derek as well. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how the COVID, it just seemed to just like destroy so many lives, and so many people are still suffering from it. And Kate has like, she made documentaries and all that about it. So it's been like, it's been absolutely tragic for her. And so many, we've seen the story all the way through, and it was because, as I said, she's done a documentary, and I think she got an award for the documentary as well. And then obviously they spoke about it quite a lot on GMB, quite a good few mornings and that. But yeah, so that's very, very sad news that Derek Draper passed away. And then we move over to this Horizon, which is the post office system. It's a new IT system. Well, not new, an IT system what the post office had set up. I think in the early 2000s, this part of it was set up, right? But, I mean, when I first heard about the actual Horizon story, right, because I heard about this must be about 15 years ago, might even be longer. I think, in fact, yeah, because Labour was still in power when I first heard about this story, right? And but because I was a news agent, right? I was a news agent until 2007, yeah. But I had my first shop in around 96. And there was a guy who had a post office round the corner to me, a sub post office, right? And I used to get on with him, and used to talk on the high street, or when we used to be in the wholesalers, we're chatting to wholesalers and all that. He was an Asian guy, but I think he was like Malaysian or something like that. He wasn't from India or Pakistan, he was from Malaysia or somewhere like that, right? And he got sent to prison, right? It must have been about 98, because I'd only known him for about 18 months to 2 years by the time he got sent to prison, right? And it was just, his whole family was destroyed in the local area and everything, right? And it's not till this morning that I saw a report on GMB. And today's the 8th of December 2023, and this happened, right? And I knew that man, right? And up till this morning, right, I believed that man was stealing money out of his post office, right? But now, because he always said no, because he said no, right? But he got sent to prison. He got sent to Pentonville, right? So that's the thing, and that's not a nice place to go to, because it's full of rats, cockroaches, lice, and anything nasty you could imagine, right? So he's got sent to prison, right? And his wife, I think his wife left him because she lost the business, because like people used to break out their windows, and people would just walk past their shop and just spit on the floor, and just walk up to the door, just spit on the floor, open the door, and spit on the floor in the shop and all that type of thing. And his wife must have got assaulted a few times and all that type of thing, right? So it was just tragic for them, and his kids was in, because they have a house in the local area and all that. Do you know what I mean? So it was just tragic for them, right? But as I said, it's only this morning that I know that man was innocent as well, because the Horizon system, right? This system, the other system, predated the Horizon system, and that was they just used 300 or 400 post offices, right, as guinea pigs to test a new system that was going around. This was before the Horizon, because Horizon was made by Fujitsu. The first system was made by somebody else. Now, on the first system, right, so remember, this is the pilot. This guy, what I'm talking about, he got sent away on the pilot. And they sent away a good few others on the pilot. Right? So this predates Horizon. When Horizon came about, right, once that came about, I was like, because I found out about it, right, and there must have been, at that time, there must have been close on 100 postmasters that was that had been charged and was going to court. Or some of them had been convicted and sent to prison. And I was just like, because I heard about this system, and there was noises about this system, but I just thought, well, something, right? Overnight, postmasters, right, don't just steal a lot of money out of their post offices. Right? The guy that I knew, I just thought, because listen, one or two is going to do that. I mean, the post office, the post office investigators themselves, and that's the problem with the post office. They're allowed to investigate and they can prosecute you themselves because they've got their own agency set up to do all this type of thing. To investigate anything what happens in the post office. So they will take you to court themselves, right? So, and that is a major problem as well because a lot of those people, they're overzealous, right? So I knew that, something, there's no possible way that all these postmasters have just literally overnight, just said, you know what, I'm going to steal money out my post office. See, that only happens, right, if people get themselves in trouble. They might get themselves in trouble gambling. One of their kids might be kidnapped by local drug dealers, right? And they have to go and just get a little 10 grand and just give it to these drug dealers, right? To get their child back or whatever, right? So, shit like that might happen, or, they might get themselves in trouble gambling, or, whatever, they might have like a drug, a drug, there might be a drug addict, right? There wouldn't be, if there was like crack would do it. If you was a crack addict, right, you could burn through one hell of a lot of money in the post office. Right, coke, someone who's done coke, I mean, that's not really going to do that, right? Because literally, I mean, literally, you couldn't really take more than 2 or 3 grams of cocaine, every day. I mean, but but in crack, people can smoke much more than that in crack every day, and they do, right? So those are the reasons why people might steal from their post office. But overnight, we've got over 700 postmasters convicted, right? Some of them sent to prison, some of them have died in the process and all this, right? And, from a long time ago, the post office knew that their system was faulty. They would have known from when the numbers hit maybe 50, 60, even before that, they would have known, because they would have known how many postmasters they'd previously prosecuted, right? Now, we're not talking about post office staff. Post office staff is different because them are got teeth out your money, right? Because they're not the postmaster. So post office staff is something completely different, right? Post office staff, they might take the money, all the money out of the safe. So maybe 60 or 70,000 pounds out the safe, and then you find their car at Heathrow Airport, right? So they might do that, and you think, why would the hell would you steal 55,000 pounds and then run off? Unless you find somewhere you can buy a house for 5,000 pounds. Right? And you go somewhere where you can't be deported from, right? But no. But yeah, so so they don't really, overnight for them to do. Right? So post office staff, yes, right, they're going to be prosecuting a lot of them on a yearly basis, staff, but not postmasters, right? And with the amounts of money that was going missing, because you're talking about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 grand. Right. And a lot of times the postmasters was putting the money back in themselves because the system was telling them, listen, this is how much supposed to be here, and that's not there. So either you put that money in, or you're going to face some real trouble, right? So the postmasters put in. So a lot of them have gone they went bankrupt because they had to put that much money back into their own post office, right? And, they're suspecting family members, they're suspecting their staff members. One postmistress, she said, I just got rid of all my staff and I worked in there the whole week, and the money was still down. So she said, I just knew that it couldn't be, but she still got convicted. So all these people convicted over that Horizon thing, right? And as I said, there was a system before that, right? People got jailed on. So the post office knew long ago, and we're going to see, because the police are investigating like people from the post office now who should really be sent to prison for fraud, because they've defrauded these people out of so much money. And the government's talking about, we've paid that 135 million or 138 million or something like that. They said they paid, but these people haven't been compensated for what's happened to them, because so much of them have lost their businesses, they've lost their status in the local area, especially being in that Asian community, Indian community. A lot of that's a lot about respect and all those type of things, right? So within that community, you could imagine, right, how shamed these people have been within that community. Because a lot of our postmasters are Asian, right? And it just goes to show you that when it's down to the working classes, yeah, you know what? They just get kicked right up the backside, right? With some good winkle pickers on, right? By Mr. T, right? And when it comes down to the working classes, right? Because you look, right? See all these postmasters jailed, Grenfell Tower. How many people's been jailed over all of those working class people that was killed in Grenfell? How many people's gone to jail over that? But you steal a few £1,000s from the post office, right? Even as they know that, you know what, our system's at fault, you go to jail for it. Just goes to show you, yeah, that the working classes, right, and the less well off, right, don't get, and the middle classes, right, don't get any of the same benefits, right, as, the upper classes will get. Because when you look now, right, who from the post office, because people, the woman from the post office, she's got a CB or something like that. So who from the post office now, right, is going to face anything like what these people faced? Just going to get away with it. A man has burst into a cinema in Liverpool. I believe he went in and tried and rob it or something like that, yeah, because he burst in there with a gun. And he's earlier on he shot up a news agent or something like that. But this time he's managed to burst into a cinema with a loaded weapon. I think the police have apprehended someone on that. So we'll hear more about that story maybe a little bit later on in the week. Hospitals are begging junior doctors to return to work, to cross the picket line. But what's happened here is the hospitals have just because they're doing it for the government, right? So what they're doing is they're going out and saying, "Oh, we've got a major instance," but when the junior doctors have checked it out, there hasn't been no major incident, and they're just doing it so they can report to the papers, "Oh, we've got a major incident, and look at these doctors. They won't cross the picket line and come out and help out." Because a few of them have, but it's all just absolute nonsense. But this is the way how the working classes are treated. People are raiding shops for cigarettes. And you know why that is? Because cigarettes are so darned expensive. Right? 10 to £15 a pack. In fact, let's just go £11 to £16 a pack. Right, then that's going to make that a real commodity that people are prepared to. To ram raid. That's ram in a car into a shop to go and steal the cigarettes, not to ram raid the car into a shop to steal the cash machine, but to ram raid into a shop to steal the cigarettes. So that's how low this country's gone. But when you decide, we're going to make cigarettes into a major commodity, that, if you have like a 200 pack of cigarettes, right, and you take them into any local shop, right, they're going to buy them off of you, right? Especially if they're UK made ones, if they've got all the right markings on them, so they're not dodgy ones. If they're UK made ones, they're going to, you can literally just walk into any shop. You know the people a little bit, but you can literally walk in and they're going to buy them off of you because could you imagine that, like, they're going to be, cigarettes are going to be what? So if they're like £16 a pack, that's you're going to be talking about £140 plus VAT, maybe about 130 plus VAT. Right, because your profit margin is very, very small on things like cigarettes. I was a news agent, and I'm telling you, your profit margin is very, very small. So if you lose one pack out of that 200 pack, right, then you've lost all your profits and some, because you don't make a pack's worth of profit, right, on an outer of cigarettes. You don't make so if they're £16 a pack, you ain't making £16 off of your £130 plus VAT. You're not making £16 back on the pack. Definitely not. And we'll talk about some Brexit because I'm nearly 30 minutes in already. Do you know what I mean? And I wasn't expecting to do 30 minutes, but I'm nearly 30 minutes. But I was supposed to do 2 videos on Friday when I done my Israel video. I was supposed to do a Palestine video, I should say. I was supposed to do 2 videos on that day, but I didn't. But Brexit has hobbled the UK's space. The UK space program has been hobbled by Brexit due to interference political interference and lack of funding. So what is happening? Like the UK is having to go to overseas conglomerates to help with the UK's mission to Mars now with their with their space race. So it's another thing that Brexit has just completely destroyed, because obviously we was attached with the would have been attached with the EU, and Britain has said, oh no, we're going to go out on our own and we're going to do this all on our own. But straight away, before they could even get anywhere, they've got to go overseas to help with the finance. For people who said, you know what, we don't need to be with you in the EU because we could do everything by ourselves because we are simply better than you and you are a bunch of foreigners and we hate you. The Dutch flower market is asking the UK, right, to not bring in the new rules, what's supposed to come in, so I think it must be later this month, because if they bring it in, it's going to affect Valentine's Day and Mother's Day. So it must be, Valentine's Day is the 14th of February, so it's got to be later on this month that the new rules should be set to be brought in. But I'm not sure whether or not Britain is going to be able to bring in new rules, because all that will do is just destroy our economy even more. Because right now, the goods flowing out of this country into the EU, are checked down to the last bin. Everything is checked, right? They'll just be like, oh, this paperwork needs to be done in blue ink, not black ink. Okay, so this load needs to go back. That's how the EU just deal with us over there. Whatever the case, right? Everything that we send over needs to be checked, and if it's not checked, right, then they'll just send it back. But over here now, we've just been letting everything through because we can't implement the new rules on the companies in the EU, because that'll destroy a lot more in this country. So we just allow free flow basically, so they could just send anything, but whatever we send over is checked thoroughly. So the system, so the system's not working. So the system is not really working for us. How the system works anyway. But even if they change that system now, then what's going to happen is our goods will get more expensive, because the Dutch flower companies will just say, well, look, you know what, we now have to have a new member of staff to do this new paperwork, right? So they will just put the money on, they'll just put the new cost on top of that, which will just come over to us anyway, because they pay more for flour, so they'll just have to pass it on somewhere, right? So they'll just pass it on to us. The Dutch will pass it on, implement the new rules. The Dutch will pass it on to companies. Companies will just pass it on to us. Anyway, my friends, look, I've got to wrap this up now because I'm so far over in this video and I wasn't expecting to go this far over. My friends, this is By Any Means Necessary. I'm the MC John Ribs. It was really nice to speak to you guys. Comments below.